All right, what's going on, Notre Dame fans? I'm Tyler Horka. That's Jack Sobel. We are with Blue and Gold Illustrated, blueandgold.com. Just wrapped up viewing Notre Dame's fifth fall camp practice of this preseason slate. It's kind of crazy. It's flying by already. These guys have been at it for almost a week already. We've seen 4 of the practices now, right? And this was their 5th overall. They practiced on, I believe it was Saturday, and the media was not able to see that. But, yeah, another 5-period viewing portion for the media, so we didn't see a whole lot. I thought it was kind of cool that Jared Parker, the Notre Dame offensive coordinator, started out his practice day by doing 41 push-ups. He's 42 years old, for reference, so he almost did one for every year that he's been on this earth. Dude is in really good shape. The players joke about it all the time, like he could get out there and run with them and whatnot. So 41 push-ups on a Monday, not bad work for Jared Parker. For the rest of the offense, I thought it was really awesome and cool to see the Notre Dame offense running a bunch of crossing routes. I mean, shallow crossing routes where these guys are literally 3 to 5 yards, maybe 10 yards away from the line of scrimmage and rubbing up on defenders. And this is all routes on air, so you have to kind of visualize this where these guys, there's probably 4 pass catchers out there, and they're all running their own route, and 4 quarterbacks throwing to each of those 4 different guys, so it can get a little confusing. But Jared Parker kept exclaiming, man, man, the defense is in man, so that gives you a hint as to what Notre Dame was working on today, trying to beat man coverage. They're going to see a lot of it this season, and the best way to do that is to run those crossing routes, to get defenders confused, going across laterally around the field. So that was pretty cool. Another thing that was awesome to see, wheel routes. The blueandgold.com message board is always talking about wheel routes. Logan Diggs caught a couple of them last year. I think one of them went for a touchdown against North Carolina. And, yeah, I think it was about a 30-yard touchdown against North Carolina. So that's an awesome thing to have in your playbook for the running backs to run, and they were running quite a bit of them today. I think Jadarian Price was probably the quickest. Audric Estime can really move, 233 pounds, running those wheel routes. That's a scary sight for defenses. And then Jeremiah Love looked pretty technically sound running the wheel routes as well. That's pretty much all you need to know about the offense today, other than Kevin Bauman, senior tight end, the oldest guy in that position group. He was in the pit today, which is what they call the area where the injured players work out. Really tough to see that. Obviously, he's coming off of that ACL surgery that he had last fall, missed the last 10 games of last season because of that. He said he's fully healthy, ready to go. There was a trainer that said, hey, when we run these sprints, I want you to go at full speed. So that's probably a good sign for Kevin Bauman that it's not the knee. Maybe he got dinged up on that Saturday practice, upper body thing. But just for a guy who's been through so much, the elder statesman in that group, you hate to see him working out in the pit. We'll start right there. Who did you see working out in the pit from a defensive standpoint, and then we'll get into some other defensive observations as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Chance Tucker, cornerback. I think second-team corner at this point. Jaden Mickey would be the first corner off the bench if Benjamin Morrison or Cam Hart went down. But if unfortunately for Notre Dame they would have 2 injuries, I think Chance Tucker would step in there. He was in the pit midway through individual drills. He went over there, didn't look badly hurt, and I don't think either of us really saw anything happen. But he was kind of working on that exercise bike alongside Bauman and KK Smith, of course, still in the pit, rehabbing shoulder surgery. One of the drills that stood out to me for the defensive front, they had kind of a half-speed option defense drill. They're working on responsibilities like when there's a zone read, who's got the dive, who's got the quarterback. When there's a speed option, who's got the quarterback, who's got the pitch. They weren't necessarily doing like Navy-specific triple option drills, but some of the principles of that, stay on your man, don't get fixated on the ball, absolutely applies to that first game in Dublin, Ireland. Jean-Baptiste, earlier last week in practice when they had those like walkthrough drills with the defensive line, it was Nana Osafo-Mensah with the first team. Today was Jean-Baptiste, and before that, I would have said Jean-Baptiste had a great practice. He had a little more intensity and energy than we saw from him last week. What stood out to me during individual drills, they were doing like a pass rush gauntlet drill where he had to like do pass rush moves around multiple bags and finish hard through the last one. He had a rep where he kind of messed up the first few steps. It looked like he was being really hard on himself. Like yelled an expletive that I can't say. Like it sounded exasperated. Al Washington, defensive line coach, was like, all right, get back in line. And the next rep he had, I thought it was his best rep of the day. So it looks like Jean-Baptiste really working, putting pressure on himself to get better, get in that starting spot. And if he does claim that starting spot, I think it would be a good thing for Notre Dame's defense because he provides some pass rush that Nana Osafo-Mensah, great run defender, probably can't provide.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll wrap up this video talking about the offensive line. Can't finish this video without talking about the big heavies. We talked to them and position coach Joe Rudolph today after the practice. That was the media session. Just a couple of quick things. Joe Alt, Blake Fisher, they talk the talk because they can walk the walk. And it's not like they were overly confident or anything in their press conferences, but it just comes across as two guys that are comfortable with where they are as the starting bookend tackles on this team. They're comfortable getting out there playing against anybody. Ohio State, Clemson, USC, Navy in the first week of the season. They kind of like where they're at, and Notre Dame should definitely like where they're at, being led by those two guys. And then we talked to, what was it, 3 or 4 freshmen?
I believe 4 freshmen.
You
and I were with Charles Jagasaw most of the time.
Yeah, I stayed by Charles Jagasaw most of the time. That's a really impressive kid who's coming off a knee operation that he had in the offseason after his last year of high school football. He's still not fully healthy from that, but out there on the field, I mean, it looks like he's trying to go through these drills as diligently as he can, as hard as he can. So obviously health is paramount for him. He said maybe by the end of September he'll be fully 100%. But another thing with him is he's weighing in at 330 pounds right now. Came in over the summer at 340. He's trying to get down to 315. Ironically, or maybe not so ironically, that's exactly what Blake Fisher is weighing in at right now, is 315 pounds. So he's got Fisher to draw on in some of those experiences. And then he's rooming with Emil Wagner, a sophomore offensive tackle who he is trying so hard to put on weight. I think he came in at 260-something last year as a freshman. The roster right now says he's 288, so he's trying everything. While he's eating canes, Jagasaw is in the same room after practices eating salads. I thought that was a pretty cool dichotomy. Just a really cool, fun, good-looking group of offensive linemen. What stuck out to you in the press conferences?
Yeah, for sure. Jagasaw, he's very open about what this year's going to be for him. It is almost certainly going to be a redshirt year for him. He's trying to drop weight. He's learning from Alton Fisher. There are a couple things like Alton Fisher's attention to detail. I asked him what stands out about Alton Fisher. He knew they were good going in, but what stands out actually working with them is their attention to detail, getting better with every practice. I also asked Jagasaw what stood out about the freshman defensive lineman on the other side. He really emphasized Boubacar Traore is quick. He's someone who Notre Dame, I'm certain sees as a long-term Viper on that defensive front. I thought was interesting. Talking to Joe Alt and Zeke Correll. One of the things that Correll really hit on in particular was the offensive line playing as a group together. They're working into likely starters. The players, and I think Joe Rudolph emphasized that it's still a competition with the guards, Andrew Kristofic, Billy Schrouth, Rocco Spindler in there. We've seen in practice this week it's been pretty much all Kristofic and Schrouth with the guards, but I don't think they're ready to name starters quite yet. But regardless of who's in there, they're still trying to make sure everyone's on the same page in every rep, and that's been a really big focus of fall camp. And then just one last interesting note. Joe Alt, he's an engineering major. He talked about some engineering principles, formulas that velocity, velocity and direction and force that he and the offensive line group are trying to apply to some of their drills and getting better. And once we check out the audio, I think we'll have a story on blueandgold.com about that coming up today or tomorrow morning.
Yeah, look for plenty more content coverage from today, and then we'll be at practice on Tuesday, and then after that won't be back until Saturday. So everything that we got today and tomorrow, that'll lead you through the rest of the week into Saturday. Check blueandgold.com for sure, but then keep going back to this YouTube channel. We'll have a lot more videos up throughout the week. I'm Tyler Horka. That's Jack Sobel, and we'll see you next time.